stormwater and soil erosion, which falls under Part 91. This is a unique permitting program. It's another example of one that is administered by the county with our oversight. This applies only to active construction sites. And basically, this requires you to have a plan in place for how you're going to manage soil erosion and runoff from your construction site while construction activities are taking place. So this applies to any site that is over an acre in size or any site that is within 500 feet of a river, stream, or water of the state. And so this is things like putting up silt fencing to prevent runoff from the site, check dams to manage water, sumps where necessary, plans in place if those things fail. And so if you saw a construction site where there was a damaged silt fence and a ton of erosion coming off of it, you might want to call the soil erosion program at the county to see if there was a violation being committed. But that's the bulk of it. I did want to point out quickly some of the voluntary things that we do to encourage activities that go above and beyond these regulations. We do watershed management planning that outline activities like green infrastructure project and stream restorations, and then we pay for those projects through different grant programs. And so we might support a creation of a rain garden like we did there with the Clinton River Watershed Council. And here we might restore or daylight an impacted stream if we felt that that was a good approach. We might help out and do some monitoring on a creek to determine what the best restoration approach would be. And we do a lot of education and outreach work with people of all ages and backgrounds to help encourage folks to do stuff that go above and beyond the minimum regulations of the department. So that's it. I know it's a lot of regulations, a lot of data, but that's kind of our overview of the water quality here at Terrabusi Creek and what we at the department are doing to address that. And next up, Cindy is here with Friends of the Rouge, and she's going to talk more about some things that you guys can do every day to help protect water quality in the creek. Contact info is right up here. Feel free to reach out anytime if you have questions. And I also included the info for our pollution emergency alert system and environmental assistance center if you need to contact us after hours or for an emergency. All right. Do you want to go now, Cindy, and then do questions after? However you want to do it. Maybe break for questions would be good, or? Yeah, well, I'll take a few questions now. Okay. Yeah.
If you flip back a couple slides to the floodplain.
I'll get you.
Oh, it's our work.
Probably has the same question as me.
Oh, okay.
Number 44.
Yeah. Go ahead back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
How often would you suggest that these surveys are done to determine the parameters of or the borders of the floodplain or a wetland?
So usually it's done on a site-by-site basis. So periodically, FEMA, for example, will go in and update their floodplain models. Usually they do it in response to improvements in the modeling technology, or if they're like old ones that are just getting out of date.
Or if there was a development project in the vicinity?
They probably would not do a new model. They would probably look at the existing model and see if that development project was crossing over with the floodplain. Now at the department, FEMA does the floodplain models, but we do the floodplain permits. So our floodplain engineers have the right to make a determination that maybe what's in the FEMA panel doesn't match with what we're actually seeing in the field. So
Right.
kind of on a project-by-project
Patterns
basis.
change over time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to have a different question in the back?
I think that answers my question.
Okay. Back there?
So who owns an urban stream? Like the guy with the lawn right up to the base of the water? I mean, what's the legalities of parameters?
Okay, so that's a good question. So nobody owns a stream, the water itself, right? And so basically, if your toes are wet, in most cases, that's a water of the state. It is owned by the taxpayer, but held in public trust by the state of Michigan for protection. So anyone has the right to access a stream. However, you can own the land right up to the edge of a body of water. And if you are a riparian landowner, you have what are called riparian rights, which grant you the right to use and access of that stream. So you would be able to have access to the stream with permits. You might be able to build a dock or a structure like on a lake or something like that. So that's kind of the line there. You can own the land, but you can't own the resource, if that makes sense.
I have a few questions.
Okay.
So one is, what tests are used for testing the water quality? You mentioned the microbes, but I'm sure there's other tests used as well. What are they?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different tests and a lot of different methods. That could be a presentation all on its own, to be honest, but I think they kind of fall into a few key categories, which would be the biological sampling that I talked about, so looking at the populations of organisms themselves, versus chemical sampling, which would be looking at individual parameters like chlorides, phosphorus, dissolved oxygen, different indicators of stream quality. And there are, even within those different types, there are various ways of testing that. So we have kind of quick and dirty methods, which might be a strip test, like an indicator test that you would stick in the water, would change colors and give you a quick estimate of what you're looking at. But to get a more accurate assessment, we might have to take a sample.